Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and I've got Tom Curless back to the channel. How are you, Tom?
Doing well, Peter. Thank you for having me. It's great. Great to be back.
Fantastic, Tom. We are going to do a album battle by Uriah Heep, and this is two albums that were released in the same year, Demons and Wizards and The Magician's Birthday. So I'll put a picture of both albums up on the screen, and there you have it. So, Demons and Wizards was recorded between March and April 1972, released in May 1972, and The Magician's Birthday was released in 1972 November, but recorded September to October 1972. So, wow. The era of the 70s, Tom, where bands were releasing 2 to 3 albums, it's just inconceivable, isn't it, in this day and age?
Unbelievable, unreal. I mean, really, the fact that these were recorded, that's one thing that I did notice how fast they were recorded together. I mean, this could be a double album, basically. Um,
Yeah, I've,
you
I've,
know,
I've often wondered if it was they had the idea of doing it as a double album, but when you go deeper into the songs, you realize it is treated as two separate projects. Wow, so many bands in that era, doing 2 to 3 albums. I think Deep Purple, a lot of other bands in the 70s just pumping out albums because there was simply a demand.
yeah, the
So,
manager was like, "Okay, great album. Okay, get on tour. Okay, as soon as you're done with tour, get a next album. Where's the next album? Where's the next record?" It's like they were pushing them hard.
absolutely. So, Demons and Wizards versus The Magician's Birthday. So,
Mhm.
basically, Uriah Heep had a ton of people play under the moniker of Uriah Heep. Mick Box has been there from day one. You had the singer of David Byron, Ken Hensley on keyboards and guitars, the wonderful Lee Kerslake on drums, and Gary Thane on bass. So this was probably one of their most stable lineups of the 70s, and they put a run of albums and a live album. And
Mhm.
I guess a lot of people do describe this as the classic quintessential Uriah Heep lineup. Actually, I'm just going to ask you a very quick question. What was your first encounter with Uriah Heep in your music listening?
Well, the first time I heard Uriah Heep was in, I believe it was in college. So it was late for me. I mean, I didn't grow up with Uriah Heep. I grew up with Deep Purple and Sabbath, and Zeppelin. For some reason, none of my family didn't have any albums. I'd always heard the name though. I'd always heard it like rock. You might like Uriah Heep. But I heard actually Demons and Wizards was the first thing that I heard in college, and I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of like classic 70s kind of hard rock with a little bit maybe there's like little tab of prog in there and like a little bit of mysticism side of stuff. It's a little bit, it's interesting. I got a little bit of everything in there. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think the first thing I heard was with Demons and Wizards. So there you go.
yeah. I think I first heard it when I was about 13, 14, and it was Abominog, which is the Pete Dolby area. They were very much American and adult or adult orientated rock. Head first, I used to dig those albums, and then I'd go into the catalog and go, oh, there's a whole wealth of 70s material, and then discover the David Byron era. So yeah, but it was actually the
Mhm.
Pete Golby era of the early 80s that I got into. All right, so we'll get
Mhm.
into Demons and Wizards. So this just a little bit of admin. This was one of their highest charting albums, went to top 20 in the UK, number 23 in US, Australia number 14. It did go gold in the US. So you've got the wonderful Roger Dean art. It's not a concept album as such, Tom. But a lot of people, they look at the Roger Dean art, they think it's proggy straight off the bat without listening to it, and they probably assume that it's maybe conceptual or there's some sort of theme, but it's really a collection of songs. So we start off
Mhm.
with The Wizard. What do you think of this song?
Um, wow, I love it. What a great way to start the record. It starts with a beautiful acoustic. I mean, it's just so well done when when you put that needle down on the record and you hear that beautiful acoustic come in. And it develops slowly into a full rocker. With power chords and great vocals. I mean, I love the David Byron. like high backing vocal. I just love. I think that's David Byron doing that, right? The screams, the sort of high screams. He's kind of sounds. Sometimes he sounds sort of Gillen-esque at times. So but maybe that's why you kind of get the Purple comparison sometimes with this band, because he can do that big high screamy thing, which is just so cool. Um, but it's a great track. I just think it sounds amazing. I think it's got a great great hooks in it, and I think it's just a well done, great way to start the record.
Yeah, it's got a very pretty acoustic melody line, and David Byron's tone on this whole album, and we'll get deeper into it, but especially on this song, is just beautiful. He sings beautifully, and there's got a slight echo effect, which is quite effective. For some reason, and I've listened to both of these albums a ton of times in preparation for this show, some of the vocals in this particular song reminded me of Roger Daltrey. I don't know why. All right, well, the next one is Traveler in Time. What do you think of this song?
Another winner for me. I really love the Mick box using a wah wah. It's got this. I think it's a guitar with a wah wah. I think the organ also might have some effect on it, but it's. Um, but I love how the riff keeps returning. Is that riff that just keeps happening. It keeps returning. I love it. And then it breaks down. There are a couple times where the song will breaks down into just the drums, and I love that. Again, another great. I have in my notes. I have another great vocal from David Byron. I really, to your point, I really think that he sings so well on this record. He's really a strong vocalist. He really is. Um, and I even said, I'm making some comparisons here. People might get mad at me because I'm not sure which came first. It's just what I heard first. And I'm kind of hearing a little bit of like Edgar Winter vibe at times with the way the guitar, it almost sounds like Frankenstein or something. You know what I'm talking about? There's like that tone. It kind of has that time. But Edgar Winter may have come later. I'm not sure
Well,
what the timing is.
I reckon they played with them.
Yeah.
Uriah
Yeah.
Heep were really touring heavily, and they were doing all sorts of different bills. So I reckon they would have been touring with those guys. I agree with you. I love the wah wah. That's like Mick Box's specialty. I've got to put a shout out for Gary Thane's bass. It's really melodic. The
Yeah.
bass lines
Yeah.
just go up and down. They're bubbling, and they really drive it with the engine room of Lee Kerslake. Byron's falsetto is sublime. He is a slightly divisive vocalist because there are other albums where he really pushes the falsetto to the maximum, and I hear some folk don't like it. I don't mind it at all. I think he's
I
he's
love it.
quite an operatic singer, and he's very influential. He's even influenced, black metal, death metal artists like King Diamond. King Diamond said
Mhm.
he's like one of my major influences. So take that for
Wow.
whatever you will. But yeah, I've got to put it
Yeah.
out. I've got to put it out there. So Uriah Heep started in 1969, and someone described them as the Beach Boys, or a hard rock version of the Beach Boys. They're one of those first bands in a hard rock setting that did the whole harmonies. A band called Queen came out a couple of years later were doing that. A band called
Hmm.
Sweet in UK were doing that. So were these guys the pioneers of the hard rock harmonizing?
Hmm. No, it's interesting that I have Queen in my notes. It comes up because I'm like
Yeah,
Freddie Mercury was listening to this band. There's no doubt he
absolutely.
heard these
Well,
records. Yeah,
you've got to look at Very Heavy, Very Humble. Came out in
yeah,
69. Queen, what's their first album? 71?
72, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just by, the date line, they must
Hmm.
have been hearing Uriah Heep. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yep. Yep.
Easy Living. This is one of their most famous songs. What do you think of this one, Tom?
I think there's a reason it's one of their most famous. It's very deceptively hooky. I think it's a really good. I don't think it was this released as a single? I'm not sure. I think it might have been, but if
Yep.
it wasn't, it got picked up either way. And man, I just love it. I think it's that song just sticks in my head every time I listen to this record. That song's Easy Living is in my head. Easy living, didn't beat. It's just that and that shuffle, that sort of fast shuffle beat. That is done so well, and like you said, the rhythm section is just cooking on this track. Um, and it's written by Ken. Is it written by Ken Hensley? Is that right?
Yes,
So it's
yes,
so
yes.
he sort of became like the main, or maybe he already was sort of the main writer in this band. But it was definitely solidified, I think, when this became such a big song for them. But I think he does the organ work as well, which is really cool. And again, sounds a little bit. I keep bringing this up, but it kind of sounds a little like John Lord at times. And again, they were kind of doing albums at the same time, so but it's I just think it's very, like, again, I can understand the Purple comparisons at times. I really get that, but I love this song. I think it's a great song.
Yeah, I think the difference with John Lord and Deep Purple is that I think the Hammond's really pushed up as the main instrument in a lot of their
Yeah.
songs, and the
Hmm.
guitar takes the back seat. Whereas Deep Purple, it's the other way around. Blackmore is king,
Right.
and
Right.
Lord plays like a rhythm part. But I love this song. One of my radio mentors, because I do a radio show in Australia, Mark O'Neill, bit of a shout out. He interviewed Ken Hensley, and they were just having a yap about the origins of this song, Easy Living. And Ken said that he was walking down, I don't know, Hollywood Boulevard or whatnot, and bumped into a fan and said, "Look at you. You got the life of Riley, you know? This is just like
Hmm.
easy living," or something like that. It was like a catchphrase from a fan, and that triggered something in his head to write about the life of a rock and roller and, is it easy living? But if you look at the lyrics is about finding God. There's a religious
Oh,
aspect to it where this person has been going down this path but has found God and gone down into a different route in their life. So Ken Hensley became a born again Christian, and in
okay.
this interview with my friend on the radio station, Mark O'Neill, he actually spoke about this song is actually about being a born again Christian or finding religion. So that was something I was very surprised. And I mean, there was a whole subgenre of rock in the 70s called Jesus rock, where a
Hmm.
lot of artists, Elton John and others, would be doing analogies with religion because Jesus Christ Superstar, and there was just a lot of kind of biblical type of rock and roll acts that
Hmm.
were coming out in the early 70s. It was a big thing. So
Right. Hmm.
Godspell.
Godspell.
So
Yep. Yep.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I think it was an interesting time looking at biblical themes. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's something I found quite surprising, and that's what Easy Living's about. It was about finding religion, but I think it's one of their best songs. I just love it. I love the organ line, and basically the whole song wraps around the organ line, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. Yep, yep. You can tell that everyone's sort of following the organ, essentially. Yeah.
Yep.
So
All right.
great.
Poet Justice.
Man, another winner. So side one is doing really, really well so far. Um, I really love this sort of, I have my notes, the slowly ascending vocal melody that na, na, na. I just think it's so well done. It's very hooky and it's almost funky. I have like it's literally like that again. I'm a shout out to the rhythm section, Kerslake and Thane. They really, it's like this funky sort of rhythm that's going on below if you kind of pay attention. Um, also love absolutely. You mentioned the harmonies earlier. This one, man. The harmonies is just shine. I love the absolute. The harmonies are so well done on this track. This is one of my favorites on the record. I love this song.
I agree with you 100%. And I just think out of all the hard rock, heavy metal acts, this band is probably in my top three on the harmony side. They nail it. In
Yeah.
fact, I actually like their harmonies a little bit better than Queen because Queen,
Hmm.
you've got Freddie, who's just outstanding. But I think if
Hmm.
you did dissected the harmonies on a Uriah Heep album or a song, that they all seem to be equally as good. So
Right.
it's just top notch quality. I just love this song. It's got a lot of swoop, it's grandeur, and the bottom end is so funky. I agree. I'm just repeating what you said. It's got so much
Hmm.
groove. Curse, and Fane, they were a killer combination, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's such a tasty track. And not many people really talk about this track. It's a deep cut,
No.
really, at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a deep track, but it's a great deep track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
would imagine in America, Uriah Heep don't have that sort of musical impact than a Purple or a Zeppelin. They kind of a bit of a
No.
footnote, weren't they?
Yes. Yes. I mean, literally, I had to almost kind of seek them out. And people talk, I always hear people talking about them now, like Martin Popoff brings up a lot, the Heap. And it's like, he obviously likes the band a lot, but they were really in there as pioneers and but I think to your point, I think there are some people that think they're sort of like they're not that heavy. They're not Sabbath. They're not Purple. They're not. But they really, if you really dig into these records, like I had like this, I did this week. I mean, I'm just getting ready for this.
Mm,
I really immersed myself in the Heap, and it's like when you really start cranking these records up and listen to them, these are pretty heavy records, and they're very well done. I mean, it's not all heavy, but it's it's just they're a really tight band. They're a very good band.
yeah,
you know?
absolutely, absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Circle of Hands.
Yeah, so okay, so we talked about Zeppelin came up, right? This one kind of reminds me of Thank You a little bit. I don't know, this sort of long dramatic organ chords a little bit. Um but starts it starts like a ballad, right? And then it kind of slowly sort of a slow build song. And I have the whole the today is only yesterday's tomorrow, man. Very I can hear people listening to this going, "Man, dude, you hear that lyric, man? Yeah, so true." But no, I do I do enjoy this song. I don't know if it's as good as the first four tracks, but I do enjoy it. I think it's a good song.
Yeah, look,
What's your take on it?
my take on the song is again, the organ brings you into the song because you've got these organ chords at the start. It's very majestic, it's got a regal. Then, Byron's got these really intimate vocals. It's like he's like that close to the microphone, it's like he's
Hmm.
bearing his soul. I think, look, I've heard a lot of David Byron. I've got all of the Heap albums with him. I think
Hmm.
his singing on this album is probably his finest moment. Like,
Yeah.
there are some albums like Look at Yourself where he's probably 8 tenths brilliant, and there are a couple of
Hmm.
vocal choices that you get. I'm not quite sure. That's not what I like, but I
Right.
think he nails every single vocal on this particular album
Hmm.
100%. So I think it's his finest vocal moment, and to me, the way they've recorded is beautiful. It's just so intimate, and
Hmm.
there's sincerity and authenticity about his vocals on this album. And yeah, I love this song. I
Yeah.
think it's
Great,
really
great
good.
vocal. Yeah.
Um, Rainbow Demon.
Rainbow Demon. Yeah, it's a kind of a slow rocker, right? It's kind of it's funny. I kept waiting for this. Every time I hear this song, I always wait for it to like take off. Like when is it gonna just like double time and just take off? It never quite does. They just keep it sort of slow, mid-tempo rocker. But that being said, I enjoy it. Again, it's kind of got that sort of that heavy organ on it again, which I enjoy. And I love again, keep talking about the Byron vocals, but the guy is a great singer, and I do love the sort of that whole harmony thing that he's got. And then he's got this, I don't know if it's an effect or if he's doing that, he's that demon. He's kind of like after when he says demon, it kind of does that shaky thing, that demon. I'm not sure if he's doing that with his voice or if that's an effect, but it's really cool. Whatever it is, it's well placed. Um, and and a great again, I have in my notes I have great guitar solo and backing vocals. So I do think this is a good way to kick off side two. I enjoy this song.
He got asked to sing for Purple. I'm not sure about the timing, but it might have been around the pre-Mark III era, and he knocked it back.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so yeah, I don't know how that would have gone because he had he's a very strong personality, and he did go off the skids, which is a
Hmm.
very sad story. But
Yeah,
I don't know how
yeah,
he would have got on with Richie Blackmore because it all centers around can you get on with Richie Blackmore.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it would have been interesting because I could imagine a David Byron doing A Child in Time, but it would have been that a really ramped up falsetto. I can imagine
Hmm.
David Byron doing a little bit of Burn because a lot of the Heat stuff is quite funky. And with Glenn Hughes, they
Yeah.
were going in that direction. I could imagine Byron doing a little bit of Stormbringer, a lot of
I,
songs off that
I was gonna
album.
say I could
So
see him on Stormbringer. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so a wonderful what if, but yeah,
Hmm.
he didn't. He chose to just continue with Heap. But
Interesting.
look,
Yeah.
Rainbow Demon, I love that fat organ sound. I call them fat notes because they're just really
Yeah.
protracted. David shows a little bit of a lower register, so he's got a lot of versatility, but it's slower, it's a little bit sludgy, and I hear a little bit of an Eastern melody. I won't call them Egypto chords, but it's a little bit Eastern, a little bit mystical sounding. And I wrote here almost Deep Purple. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a mighty fine song. Um,
Hmm.
All My Life.
Oh man. Well, I love the harmony guitars on this. I mean, it's almost like pre Thin Lizzy kind of vibe. And the gang vocals. Again, this is my first note where I said almost sounds like early Queen. On this track. This was the track that kind of hit me. It kind of sounds like Queen 1 or Queen 2 or something like that. Just the some of the vocals, the way it's done. It's kind of like, was Freddie listening to this record? He might have been. Um, and then again Byron does the Gillen-esque scream again. And again, I keep saying Gillen-esque. They were doing it at the same time, so people might be like, dude, it was done before deeper. But in rock, I don't know, in rock was like 1970 or in
1970,
70,
yes, yes,
70, right? Yeah, so it was
1970.
before this second album, but he does that sort of that scream that I love. And maybe people, you said some people don't like it. I love when he does it. I wish he did it more because he's capable of doing it. I just love when he does it. So yeah, I like this track. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's got a really tight riff. It's a straight ahead meat and potatoes rocker, so it's the most straight ahead rock song on this whole album. I think he hams it up a little bit, but I don't mind it. He's
Hmm.
bringing out the kind of camp Byron side of it, where he's doing the hysterics, the rock overdrive voice. I don't mind it.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
his voice is loose, and that's what I like. He's
Hmm.
kind of relaxed, and he's kind of, you can imagine whether he's having a beer or a champagne or a scotch or something. He's kind of loosened
Yeah.
up, and he's
Yes.
just
Yes.
really letting riff into the mic.
Yeah.
And he's probably taken the gate off, and
Yeah. He sounds like
yeah,
he's having fun at the end. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Paradise. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I love the acoustics on this track. Again, they do a really, I don't know how they were. I love the recording of the acoustics on this album. I just think they sound amazing. It kind of, and this is the first time that it sounds a little bit like early Pink Floyd. Where I think Mick Box does this sort of slide thing where he sounds a little bit like Gilmore. I mean, and again, I just grew up on Pink Floyd, so I'm, that's what when I listen to this, I go, oh, it kind of sounds like Floyd a little bit. Just early Floyd, like pre Dark Side of the Moon Floyd. Um, which to me is like, that's a killer. I love that. And again, I have great bass from Gary Thing. I mean, it's to your point. You said earlier that he just plays these melodic lines, and you really have to like pay attention. But when you pay attention, it's almost like he's McCartney-esque at times with the bass playing, which I just hits the spot. And this is his first record with Uriah Heep. I didn't realize that the rhythm section, this was their first album with the band. And I love that they mellow out on occasion. Like this is it seems like with every album they'll have songs where they completely mellow out, and it's kind of nice. It's a nice shift gears, and I like that. So I think it works really well. I do enjoy this one. What
Yeah,
do you think of? What do you like?
I have a bit of a Led Zeppelin 3 feel to this. There's a bit
Mhm.
of a build up, but it doesn't sort of lead to where you expect it to go. So I don't quite like this song as the others. I'm not to say it's a bad song, but I guess I don't groove on this song as much as the other songs on this album. But
Mhm.
the intimate vocals of David Byron are the real sellers on this song, and that he kind of hooks you in. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
and then you've got a segue into the spell.
Hmm.
What
Right.
do you think of this
Kind of
final
crossfades,
song?
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sort of crossfades into it. The spell, kind of strange. I almost the choice of crossfading with this one because the spell is kind of starts out with this sort of bouncy number, and it's kind of odd that it would be like crossfaded into that. But that was the choice they made, and it seems a little jolting after the last track. But I do like the outro on this a lot. I like the again, I have Pink Floyd-esque again. It's sort of they on occasion they kind of get into that vibe a little bit, and I like that. It has this song has several sections in it, and I like that it kind of it grows on me. Like I remember at first I would think this song wasn't that great, but the more you listen to it, it's one of those kind of songs. And again, I hear a little bit more Queen again too. So there's just a lot of stuff that I hear on this track that's kind of seems like it's a mishmash of a lot of different things. And it's interesting. It's an interesting song. I don't love the bouncy part as much. I almost think like wish they would have just like done the second part and we just got rid of the bouncy part. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. It does throw you a little bit off center because it's a bit of an outlier. It doesn't sound like anything on the rest of the album. There's a bit of honky tonk. It's a bit more rollicky than some of the other songs. A bit of boogie. I like it. It's different, but it does throw you like a little bit. Ooh, okay, this is a bit different.
Yeah.
I love the choir harmonies. They're just so sublime. And, you may not like all the parts of this particular song, Tom, but you must agree that the actual harmonies they just nail it on this particular song.
Yeah.
And Ken Hensley does some classical piano, really tasty, melodic, haunting classical piano. And, I don't mind. I think it's a mighty fine finish, and you've got David Byron pushing his voice right to the end. But it's a bit of a left field, offbeat choice from a sequencing point of view. But I don't mind it at all. So there you go.
Yeah.
So I think fair to say, pretty strong album, isn't it? Pretty strong. So
yes, definitely.
Let's go. We'll get straight into the Magician's Birthday. So literally, they released this in May. Magician's Birthday, just reiterating, where they record it September, October, same year, and push it out in November. So, wow, such a crazy timeline. So, this one is got a bit more of a concept. I think there's a short story that Ken Hensley wrote. Why don't we start off with the first song, Sunrise? This is a very classic sounding Heep song. Don't you agree?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I mean, this kind of feels like it could have been on Demons and Wizards a little bit. I mean, I really enjoy it a lot. I think I love the slow build opening. And I have just great ensemble playing on this. I love the up and down of this song and kind of the push and pull a little bit. And I do, that I love the scream. So he does the scream on this song, and I just love the I just love that. It sticks in my head, that sunrise in you, and then he does that and I just think I love it. It's a great lead off track. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's classic Heep. You've got the harmonies, you've got the heavy falsetto, dramatic. David Byron is just so engaging. He's got these beautiful, warm vocal lines, and the band's firing, especially towards the end, 3/4 of the way through. They're all on 4 cylinders, and they're just pumping it out. Great opening track.
Yeah, love it.
Spider Woman. So they go into something a little bit more conventional, a bit of boogie. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, this is the first stumble for me. This is where I kind of go, I'm not a big fan of when they kind of stray into the book, because they go into this sort of book, to your point, boogie, a little bit of a boogie rock, and a lot of slide guitar. Sounds almost like Joe Walsh, maybe a little bit, or like Allman Brothers or something like that. I mean, the way he plays the slide. So it's not bad. It's not horrible, but I wouldn't say Spider Woman is my favorite track. I just I don't love it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's just a meat and potatoes boogie rock. It's a little bit forgettable. But Fane's bass bounces around, and the drumming is really tight. It's crisp. It's sort of mildly enjoyable, but you forget about it once it's over.
Forgettable. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's my take.
Blind Eye. What do you think?
Yes. I like it. This is a bounce back for me. I love the strident acoustic guitars, the harmony guitars, almost doing the sort of Thin Lizzy harmony guitars thing again, which I love when Mick Box does that. I think he does it really really well. Um, yeah, I love the guitar riff melody, and it keeps coming back, and I just think it's a very good hook. And yeah, I like this track. I think it's a great good song. I like this one.
Yeah, it's another sort of genre that was quite popular in the early 70s, kind of folk rock. Very
Hmm.
heavy on the acoustic and the twin guitars, which I assume it's Box and Hensley, because Hensley was doubling as a guitarist.
Oh, okay,
So I don't
okay,
think it was Box overdubbing. I think both of
okay.
them. And
All right.
Hensley did play the guitar from time to time live.
So even better, even better. Yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
versatile band, versatile.
Yeah.
Wonderful dramatic lyrics, vocals. It's engaging, and he's really selling the song. And you know, Byron, out of all the vocals in that era, you knew how to sell a song. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
Echoes in the Dark. Do I hear a little bit of theremin? I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think so. I think there might be a little bit of theremin in there because I was wondering what that was. I'm like, what is that? It's definitely unique. And I really like, again, I like when I'm assuming this is Mick Box playing slide guitar because he did. There's a lot of slide on a lot of these songs. Um, and I really like the atmosphere on this track. This track really gives you a good atmosphere. It's very evocative. Um, and I really enjoy it. I just think it's I think the melodies are great. Again, I keep mentioning Byron, but he's just such a great singer. He can really sing well, and on this he takes a kind of a different tack, but it works very well. What's your take on this?
Well, my take is that he does the he is a great switch hitter. So he can do something that's really reflective, introspective, very sort of solemn and quiet, and then he can just switch it and go into something that's ultra bombastic. So
Yeah.
he's just got the wonderful ability to switch tones at the drop of
Hmm.
a hat. I love the classical piano on this. I don't think it's a theremin, but I'm sure our viewers will correct us. But I think it's
Hmm.
probably Hensley funking it up with some keyboard effect. But
Okay.
it's actually used again in another song, which I'm going to be talking about. But interesting that they're using the theremin. What do you think of theremin in rock? Do you like the use of theremin in rock?
Uh,
Good
well,
vibrations.
good vibrations. Yeah, it's the first thing you think of is good vibrations. Two things I think of with theremin: good vibrations and song remains the same. With Jimmy doing the
Yeah,
you know, during Dazed and Confused.
yeah.
I
Did you
don't
ever
know. I
use a
mean,
theremin in your band?
no, no theremin, no theremin. I mean, it's one of those things that's like it's almost like you got to be careful. You can't use it too much. It's like you got to
Yeah,
use it sparingly. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a little
and
bit.
even Jimmy Page said it was more of like it looked cool on stage. When he did it kind of thing. When he's moving his hand around and making it. So anyway.
Next song, Rain. What do you think of this? I just think this is one of the best songs in the album.
It goes to show you how multifaceted this band is because they can do this sort of very somber, almost not somber, but it's just very very delicate piano ballad, they pull it off in spades. Again, we keep mentioning Byron over and over again, but it's just the fact that he can be so naked on this track. And really, I mean, it's just there's barely anything. It's like piano and vibraphone or something. I mean, that's really all there is on this track. But he sells it so well with the vocal. And it's a great melody. I love the melody as well. Delicate melody. I just love it. I think they pull this song off very well. I agree with you. I think it's great.
One thing we haven't spoken about, Tom, is soul. He's got a soul voice. It
Yeah.
would have been
Yeah.
interesting to hear him tackle some R&B and soul, because I think he is a very flexible singer. And as I said to the previous track, how he can switch it, I think he would be more than capable of doing soul music and R&B. And to me, I wrote down for this song soul.
Yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
soulful performance, very
Soulful.
emotive, and it's sort of relaxed. I think it's one of the best songs on the album, and it shows a lot of heart. So this band weren't dragons or wizards, and just the rock and roll lifestyle cliched lyrics. They were sort of, there was a lot of depth, and I love the play on words about rain and the emotion of rain, how it comes into relationships. So yeah, I think this is one of his best vocal performances, to be quite frank, as a vocal performance.
It's impressive. It's impressive. I mean, the fact that he doesn't need a lot to really just convey and sell a song. He really doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
Next one is Sweet Lorraine. So this is another one that was in their song list, probably one of the better known songs of the album. And I hear a little bit of theremin again. So what do you think of this one?
Yes, that wee. I wasn't sure if that was a synth or why. To me, I thought it was a synth.
I think it is synth. I put cosmic UFO sound, but it's sort of in that wheelhouse.
I know what you mean, though. It's very close. Yeah, it kind of sounds thereminish. I mean, it's that whole Keith Emerson, Lucky Man, wee, kind of thing going on. So, but this is another. You called it earlier, meat and potatoes rocker kind of thing, and. At times, I mean, am I out of line? People might say I'm way out of line with this. Sometimes I hear it's almost like the British Styx at times. Like, do you like Styx at all?
I don't mind them.
Early Styx at all?
I don't mind them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Equinox and like before they got, before Mr. Roboto, but I think that they listened to this band. I think they were influenced by this band because this kind of sounds like something that could have been on an early Styx record. But anyway, but I love the cool synth. We talked about it and the breakdown in the middle, and I do think it's a very catchy chorus as well. Like the Sweet Lorraine. I mean, it's kind of sticks in your head. It's definitely. I think it's kind of a middle of the road meat and potatoes kind of rocker. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, look, I can understand why if it was a greatest hits Uriah Heep, this would be definitely one of the songs. It's got a catchy chorus. And I mean, if it's got a catchy chorus, you're halfway there, aren't you? Yeah. So it's probably the signature song of the album. It is a straightforward rocker, and I don't mind it. Yeah. All right, next one, Tales.
All right, another acoustic opening, which I always love. Nice atmosphere, mid-tempo. And this one, I mean, I enjoy it when it's playing, but it's one of those songs that doesn't really. It almost feels like it's not quite finished. Maybe that you could have used like another part or something like that. This is just my opinion, because it just doesn't feel as I mean, although I think it stayed in the set list, they played it live, and I think it was the fans liked it. But I've just personally, it's not one of my. It's pretty good, but it's not like one of my all-time faves from this record. So
well, I was wondering, Tom, whether they were listening to the West Coast rock sound of the Eagles, America, or whatnot. Or like, I know the Eagles started off in the early 70s. So they, when they're touring, because Uriah Heep did a lot of touring around America. They were going up, down, left, right, every corner of America. And they would have been probably touring with the Eagles and some of these West Coast rock bands. So I'm just wondering if that influence or that Americana or that sort of sound was a bit of an index for this song. Because to me, I just think this sounds very West Coast before West Coast became truly popular in the mid-70s. Do you hear a bit of a West Coast sound?
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. It kind of does have that vibe. Absolutely. I can hear it.
Well, it certainly highlights the harmonies in the band, and they're spot on. Whether you like the song or not, the harmonies are just top notch.
Harmonies are awesome.
They're always on point. And to think these days, Tom, it's all computers, auto tuning, getting it right. Yeah. But these folks are put into a studio, and it's sublime.
Yeah. That's the one thing you can tell with both of these albums is that it's a band in a room, which I love. I mean, you can feel it. There's not a lot of I mean, it just feels like the band is playing live in a room. That's what it feels like. So
yeah. Well, it's quite interesting. Martin Popoff, our friend and acclaimed Canadian rock author historian, rates Uriah Heep, Look at Yourself, as one of the greatest produced albums of the 70s as a sound. So
Mm-hmm.
I, I
Okay.
just I just think these two albums, the production is just big. Probably better than a Deep Purple album or a Black Sabbath for that. I think the production on
Yeah.
both these albums are top notch.
No, I'm with you. I've already said it a couple times. There are moments where your ears perk up, like, wow, that sounds amazing, you know?
Yes, yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So,
All
yeah.
right, we've got a bit to digest in this one, mate. The Magician's
Oof.
Birthday. So this is 10 minutes and 22, and it takes me up, it takes me down. I was all over the shop. And I remember when I first heard this, and I thought, really? Am I hearing this?
Yeah.
Over to
Yeah.
you, and
Yeah.
I'll wait in.
It takes you're starting exactly where I was going to start. I mean, it's kind of a lot to take in. The first time you hear it, you're kind of like, wow, okay, I got to listen to that again because it's like, man, is it all over the shop. It kind of starts out with that "I'm Your Captain" riff, like you could almost sing that song. Everybody, listen to me. Do. Um, but uh, but anyway, it's then it kind of goes into this sort of like the happy birthday, and that's kind of like almost Beatlesque at time, like that sort of the piano chords, that sort of McCartney-esque piano chords, with the kazoo, right? The kazoo coming in. Um, and then in the middle, it goes into this crazy guitar drum jam, just kind of seemingly out of nowhere. All of a sudden, you're like, "What's happening here?" All of a sudden, it's like, was it Lee Kerslake and Mick Box just going crazy, and then it kind of fades back into and also just going crazy on the wah pedal again. He's kind of just crank his amp up with that wah pedal and just going nuts. And then it kind of comes back into the Magician's Birthday again, and it's just it's quite a track. At 10 minutes, it's a long song, and it really goes in all these different directions. And at times, I gotta be honest, it kind of feels a little like unfocused or sort of like rushed, or maybe they could have done something. It kind of feels like it's got so much potential to be better. I don't know. What do you
Yeah,
think?
there's moments I like, and there's just moments I don't like, and I question the judgment. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
there's a lot of music hall whimsy. So especially in the UK, they love their music hall and their vaudeville, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
hear that in a lot of the works of like the Beatles. Look at the White
yeah,
Album and stuff. They
yeah.
they love the whole music hall. So
And
the
the
use of
small
yeah,
faces did it a little bit. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
the use of the kazoo. But I was sort of reminded when I was listening to this, I was thinking a lot of artists were doing these finale tracks where it'd be kind of theatrical. Like Alice Cooper would be doing like Welcome to My Nightmare, which came out in 75, 3 years later
Mhm.
with Stephen, the whole little mini opera track about Stephen, and using carnival effects and different instruments and building a little bit of a storyline. I think that what's Heap are doing here, but albeit it's a couple of years earlier. The bit where there is Mick Box and it's Lee Kerslake, fine playing, but it goes a little bit too long. That could have been trimmed.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
towards the end, it goes very Broadway, goes high
Right.
camp, and it pushes it a little bit too far. The envelope has just been pushed, and
Hmm.
oops, I'm sorry, it's dropped on the floor, and I'll have to pick up the envelope.
A little bit off the cliff, a little off the cliff.
Yeah, so just
Yeah.
a little bit too much. I have to, oops,
Yeah.
sorry, I got to pick that envelope up.
Yeah.
And there I can see where King Diamond based he's got his career. He was listening to that last
Hmm.
2 minutes of Magician's
Yeah.
Birthday, and
Right.
Daddy, that's how I'd like to sing.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So there's
Uh,
moments. It's a song of moments.
right. Right.
Um, and I'd like to pick those moments and create. There's a great song
There's a
in this,
song in there somewhere.
a
Right.
great song
Yeah.
in this song,
Yep.
but
Yes.
I've got to look at it the whole. So there's some
Yep.
choices there that I don't quite groove to.
Yes, yes. I couldn't agree more that the section in the middle goes a little too long. You're like, okay, we get it. Like it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah, a little
I
bit.
don't mind the kazoo. It's got a little bit of jaunt. That's
Right.
okay. I mean, I can
That's all
imagine
right.
Paul McCartney doing that. What was that kazoo song they did? Lady Madonna. Because
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
Uriah Heep, number 2. Yeah, kazoo songs.
There you go.
Maybe we
There
should
you
do
go.
a ranking the top 5 kazoo songs next
And
show.
yeah, and Pink Floyd, Corporal Clegg. It's another one. They
Got
do
me.
some
Yes, I
kazoo in
forgot
there.
about that.
Yeah,
Got me there. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, mate. There we
All
go.
right,
Two
that's
great
it.
albums. So I think I've got a feeling of who you're going to pick. So out of this album battle between The Magician's Birthday and Demons and Wizards, who is the winner?
Well, I have to go with Demons and Wizards. I'm sorry. This album is just so well done, and it's
Yep.
to me, it's just more consistent across the board. Um, I feel like they got sort of possibly rushed into the Magician's Birthday a little bit. Doesn't This one doesn't feel as rushed. This one feels like they really kind of had more time to flesh out all the ideas. And again, this is just me speculating. I'm not positive about this, but that's what it feels like when you listen to it. And I just think there's so many strong songs on this album. I just think the first side is pretty unassailable. It's pretty amazing, actually. And really, even the second side I mean, there's not much to criticize on this record. I think it's a standout in their catalog for a reason. It's excellent. I love it. So I have to go with Demons and Wizards. But this is, again, this is not a. There's nothing wrong with Magician's Birthday. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but in this battle, I got to go Demons and Wizards.
I agree. Demons and Wizards. I think that's probably arguably top 2, top 3 Uriah Heep. Look at Yourself is a great album.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a soft spot for Abominog, but Demons and
Hmm.
Wizards is outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking from top to bottom, the songs are so strong, beautifully
Hmm.
arranged, beautifully sung, beautifully performed. And you can understand why this is probably the biggest selling Uriah Heep album. So, Demons
Yeah.
and
They
Wizards.
nailed it. They nailed it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Tom. Again, we've done the album battle, and this is such a fun thing just to go through this journey, and just
Hmm.
any excuse to listen to Uriah Heep, couple of albums over ahead of this show. It's a good excuse, indeed. So
Yeah.
please check out
Yeah.
Curlessmania. There's all sorts of album battles, and
Hmm.
it's just fun to watch Tom's brow perspire, and where you can see his mind changing halfway through.
What am I gonna do?
Is it Keith Richards or Mick Jagger?
Yes.
Which
Yes.
Rolling Stone album should I choose? I don't know.
Right.
I just love it. Just the mental torture, but it's fun to
Hmm.
watch that. But no, seriously, folks, it's a great channel. And Contrarians, just type in Tom
Yeah.
Curlis, lots of Contrarian shows.
Yeah.
Folks, what do you think of Uriah Heep? These two albums? What's your favorite Uriah Heep album? Favorite songs? We
Hmm.
love reading your comments. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. And one thing's for sure, you'll see me and Tom doing some more shows this year on Rock Daydream Nation. Cheers and all the best. See ya. Bye.